Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Unscripted History, which will be the first episode in probably a 2 or 3 part series where I'll be going over the life and reign of Æthelred, the first king of Wessex. So, I just always been interested in Æthelred because one thing that I learned, because I'm really odd in the fact that I like to memorize long lists of things. So one of the first things I ever memorized was the list of American presidents, and then I memorized the list of Russian presidents, premiers, and czars. And then the final big thing that I did was remember all of the kings of England. And now Æthelred is technically the king of Wessex, but he's considered one of the earlier kings of England, even though it wasn't like the England we know of as today. So yeah, I guess I'll kind of just get into it. So Æthelred it's not really known what year he was born, because it's debated whether he was born in 1848 or 1845. But there is a document that suggests that he was 8 years old in 853. So, I'm sorry if I said 18. It's 1845 or 1848, but he was most likely born in 1845 because there's a document which suggests he was 8 years old in 1853. Because in 1853, he and his younger brother, Alfred, went to Rome to be consecrated by Pope Leo IV. And in this consecration, we see as it's deemed that Æthelred was deemed as the king, but ultimately that's disputed because there's not a lot of sound facts about this era, but we see this. And the likely thing that was happened here was that he was simply recognized as a spiritual son to the Pope, just kind of given these honorifics, and so was Alfred. This is predominantly more focused on it with Alfred because he became known as the Great later on. He was technically the 5th king in this line. Well, technically it's the 6th because you have Egbert, Æthelwulf, Æthelbald, Æthelbert, Æthelred the First, and then Alfred the Great. So 6 because Egbert, obviously, great granddad to all of them. Æthelwulf, their dad, and then Æthelwulf, I believe, had 5 kids. And Æthelred was the 4th of those. Alfred was the 5th, obviously. So, he was sent to Rome, noticed as a spiritual son to the Pope Leo IV, and that's kind of the only big thing we have until about 1862. Well, actually, not 1862, but 854, where we see as Æthelred starts to act as a witness to his father's decrees. And then we see in 862, 863, where he starts to essentially act as a king in a way. It's presumed that he might have been an under-king and possibly a deputy of some sort, because he was given decrees on the level of a king in these years. And it's believed that he was an under-king because there's never shown to have been a dispute between him and Æthelbert, his older brother. So it's presumed that he was kind of acting in the place of the king due to some reason. So he continued to execute this job and act as a son of the king, or a son of Æthelwulf, act in the duties of his brother as a brother to Æthelbert. There's so many Ethels and B's that it's hard to kind of remember points. But so he kind of acted in this position until ultimately in 865 he came to the crown due to the death of Æthelbert. So 865, he becomes king. One of the first things he does is he marries a girl by the name, not a girl, but a woman by the name of Wulfthryth. Wulfthryth. Yeah, that's her name. And she was actually prominent because she is one of only 2 predominant 9th century queens who were actually recognized as king. She was known as Wulfrith Regina, which means Queen Wulfrith. And the only other queen that was recognized by this was Æthelwulf. So I don't know if exactly it was, because there might have been multiple mothers, but presumably the mother of Æthelred. So ultimately Wulfrith was recognized as queen, which is very progressive for the time of Æthelred. And this was specifically recognized in a decree. Well, not as in a decree, but she was mentioned as this as being a witness to a certain charter. So, because a lot of the stuff we have from this era is from charters. So just kind of, other things that happened in these formative years. We see as he, after coming into power, has a bit of a squabble with Alfred, because Alfred wants his land that's considered his. Because under Æthelwulf's will, their father's will, he had decided, I'm going to give my land to whichever son ends up living the longest. However, under the rule of Æthelbert, since both Alfred and Æthelred were young, they were like, you know what, we'll give our land to Æthelbert just so that he can watch it for us for the time being, and then once he is done with it, he will return it to us intact. Now, after Æthelbert's death, Æthelred came into the possession of this land, and Alfred's like, I want my land back. However, Æthelred was like, no, I'm going to hold on to it. You can have all of it when I die. So, with that, ultimately, Alfred did get kind of peeved here, and we see as they had a very unstable relationship throughout the rest of the reign of Æthelred, because Alfred felt kind of gypped over this, and they kind of had some squabbles here and there. But yeah, so the next major thing that happened was in 1868 when Æthelred recognized a charter by his sister, whose name was Ethelswith, and she recognized herself as the Queen of Mercia. Now, this is once more a kind of progressive thing to recognize someone as the Queen of Mercia and be a witness to their charters, therefore solidifying the idea that you believe in them to be this type of region. So we see that Æthelred, he was kind of chill like that. He was supporting women, even though it was, in modern standards, it's very low support, but it is something for back then. But yeah, also kind of the titles that he gained with becoming, or what he recognized himself as with becoming this King of Wessex. He recognized himself as the King of Wessex and the Men of Kent, also recognizing himself as the King of the Saxons. So, after 1868 is when things kind of started to get a little bit tumultuous. Now, I will probably discuss this in its own separate video because I just kind of wanted to give you the layout for his early life and what happened before this. So, just kind of been spanning the years of 845 to 868, and then we'll be getting into a lot of battle, warfare, and all the stuff that follows, and ultimately the death of Æthelred in 871. So yeah, like I said, I'll discuss that in another video. I just kind of wanted to give this brief introductory video, so if you're not really interested in the introduction, then you can just hop right over to the battles and Viking stuff. So yeah, that's all there really is for the early life and early reign of Æthelred I. So it's a very interesting read, and I cannot wait to read up on the rest of it. So thank you very much for watching.